Hey everyone, welcome back to AntLab Games. So we are picking up on episode 2 of our Warhammer Quest adventure card game playthrough. So where we left off, we fully explored the lost Dwarven Forge and pressed forward into the confounding stairs. We are still in the Foul Stench, which is the Uneasy Alliance Quest 1. We've gotten one event that woke up the Odus Grump and took him out of his lair, and he's launched an attack on us. And we are just about to press forward, but before we do, I want to go over a few quick rules explanations as we go through. Some things that I got a little mixed up on the first episode, so I want to clear that up before we press on any further into this quest. Alright, so I'm not going to undo anything at this stage, but I think from, on a go-forward basis, we'll make sure that we resolve things the way they're supposed to be resolved. But the Odious Grump, so as part of his prey move, this enemy engages the hero with the most wounds, not health. So he technically would have gone to the Way Watcher, but he's going to jump around anyway, so we're not going to go nuts over that. Also, I think a bigger point that needs more clarity on is on the dice rolls. So for just about, well, actually for every action, right, the heroes roll a die, right? They either roll these white die or these black dies or, right? So what I want to be clear about is that for the black die rolls, we're not rolling the die, and this is something I was a little fuzzy on. We're not rolling the die for any of the enemies that we're attacking. We are actually rolling a black die for every enemy that's currently engaged on the Ironbreaker. So let's just say, for example, he had a ranged attack, or was like the Waylater has a ranged attack, and she attacks somebody in the shadows. She doesn't roll a black die for the enemies in the shadows. She's going to roll a black die for each enemy that's engaged on her. So as she's fighting something else, the enemies that are on her are still hitting her. If, for example, I was going to do the Stubborn Resolve, which is a rest action, right? I would roll 2 die to rest. I'd still have to roll 2 black die, one for each of these enemies. So as he's trying to rest and recover, these guys are still going to get their attacks, but because he's a tank, he's going to get +2 shields to defend against, 2 of the damage that could potentially go through as he's trying to rest. That goes for the Explorer, it goes for when he's given aid. Every time he rolls or takes an action, these guys are going to get a hit on him. There are some enemies in this deck that don't do and inflict damage during the enemy phase. All they have is, say, Advance, where they would go and they would engage one of our heroes. So they're just getting on you. They're not going to do any damage during the enemy phase, but every time you take an action, they're gonna hit you. So which could, obviously whittle you down pretty hard, throughout your adventure. So I think that's it. I did play. There was a little bit of confusion or concern around how I played the damage based on the Nemesis roll, but it's been confirmed that since from the beginning of the quest, the Odious Grump, he was next to the quest card that's in his lair. His effect takes place throughout this entire adventure. So. And that's how we played it, so I think we're good there. Also, another little tidbit, when we get these action tokens, these success tokens from aiding, so if if the Way Watcher aids our Ironbreaker and I have these tokens, success tokens on his attack, for example, before I roll, I have to apply them. So you use them up and then you do your rolls, so that you have to commit those tokens. So that's pretty much it. I think it's time to get on with the adventure. Alright, so our Way Watcher is going to get the first action this turn, since she is the player one, the first player, or the party leader for this round. So what she's going to do, I think, is we're going to... Oh, wow, okay. So, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to do a Shadow Watch, right? We're going to aid our Ironbreaker. And what we're going to get to do now is we're going to roll 2 dice for aid, right? And like I said, we're going to have to roll 1 die for who we're engaged with, right? For these rats. So we're going to roll 3 dice total. So the rats miss. We get a shield anyway, but we do get one success. We're going to put 1 success token on our Iron Breaker's inexorable advance action. All right. So that's her aid, and the target hero may ready 1 action. So, but all of his actions are ready, and then you may choose 1 enemy engaged with the target hero, and that enemy suffers one wound. So I'm going to give 1 wound to the clan rat who is currently on him, and that's going to end her turn, or her first action. All right, so we go over to the Ironbreaker, and we're going to assign our success token because we're going to use an inexorable advance. So we're going to assign the success to the clan rat. We're going to get 2 attack die and 1 black die for each enemy that we're engaged with. Right? So we'll roll them up, and we get 2 nemesis and 2 success. So, wow, that kind of stinks. Alright, so I'm going to apply 1 success here. So it's going to be 2 hits, 1 resilience, so he's going to take 1 more damage and be dead. And my other one's going to go here, but he's got 1 resilience, so that's not going to count. So now we're going to have to resolve the nemesis effect. Alright, so fortunately, nemesis effects only occur once during an action, so we're going to get 2 damage that we're going to be able to, 2 wounds that we're going to be able to distribute, and I think we'll distribute, we'll give 1 each. So the Waylayer's got 1, he gets 1. So that's resolved. That's resolved. This guy is now dead. And I think that was successful. Alright, so that's the end of our Ironbreaker's first action. Alright, what I'd like to do first, I think... So after this activation, I'm going to use the cap fungus. So let's think about this for a second. So that'll give me another action if I'm successful, otherwise I'm going to suffer 2 wounds. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to use Watchful Sprites. And this is my rest action, right? So you may exhaust 1 non-nemesis enemy engaged with you. So we'll exhaust this rat swarm, right? Choose 1 enemy engaged with you, and that enemy retreats. So we're going to push him up into the shadows. And now we get to rest for 2. So we'll exhaust that. We do not have an enemy engaged with us right now, which is nice. So we'll rest for 2. And she gets 2 successes, so I get to heal 2. Now we're down to 2 damage. Alright, so now that her action is over, we're going to use the cap fungus. Now we get to, you may discard this card after your activation to roll 1 hero die. So let's roll 1 hero die, and we get a success, and I get to perform 1 additional action. Alright, so what I'll do is I will switch it back to, I won't do it right now. I don't know if it means I can do it right now, but I'll go back and forth. So I'll kick it back over to the Ironbreaker, let him finish his turn, and then she can go. Alright, what I think we'll do is we'll explore. Why not, right? So we're going to roll 2 die to explore, plus 1 for the Odious Grump. And the Odious Grump misses, but we get 4 successes on that explore. Okay, now we need to draw 1 dungeon card and either resolve it or exhaust an action to place it on the bottom of the dungeon deck. So let's see if it's something we want to keep. And it is an ambush. A horrid creature springs out of the darkness and attacks. Spawn 1 enemy. Alright, I think we're going to exhaust our Stubborn Resolve, and we're going to bury this. So we do not want that right now. So I think the Way Watcher's really just going to fire, her deadly shot, ranged combat, and she's going to shoot at this rat swarm. And she gets 1 attack die, and we'll see what happens. So we get 1 success. So the rat swarm gets a damage. We had nobody engaged with us, so I didn't have to roll any black die, but that refreshes all of her actions for the next round, which is good. And that actually ends the hero phase, and we move on to the enemy phase. Okay, since she is the leader, we're going to start with her. Rat Swarm is exhausted, so he's not going to do anything. He doesn't get to do anything. So we'll have to reveal one of these hidden creatures. So we have the giant bat. So he's going to retreat, so he's up here, and now he's going to inflict 1 damage to her. So that gives her a total of 3. Alright, now we go over to the Iron Breaker. Alright, so he's going to get inflict. He's going to take 2 wounds. So he's going to go up to 5. And then he's going to pray. So he's going to go to the hero with the most wounds, and that actually is the Iron Breaker this time. His 5 to the Way Watcher's 3. So he's going to stay on him, right? So then he exhausts, right? And that giant bat that attacked before, he exhausts. Now we go back to the Way Watcher. So again, this one comes out of the shadows. Inflict. It's going to inflict 2 damage to her. And then it's going to pray. So it's 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. On a tie, it's going to come to the leader. So he'll come down here. So that's all the enemies. They've all been exhausted, so now they will all refresh. And now they're ready for the next round. Okay, and the confounding stairs at the end of the location phase, around the location phase. At the end of the location phase, discard 1 progress token from this location. So we've got 3 out of the 6. Peril phase goes up 1. No event. Move on to the next round. At the end of the peril phase, we move the leader token over to the other hero, and now the Iron Breaker is going to get the first action. So I think we have to play Shield Wall. Pretty obvious, right? Because we've got nothing else we can do. So he's going to roll for aid. Roll 1 die for aid, 1 die for the Odus Grump. And he gets a miss and a shield, so no successes. And you may engage 1 enemy, engage with the target hero, so I can bring the Goblin Warrior over. I think I'm going to do that. So he's going to engage, right? Because he's aiding our Way Watcher, so he's going to taunt him over. Taunt him over. And then the target hero may ready 1 action, but they're all readied. And now he gets to ready all of his actions. So he goes back to fresh. That was his first action. And we are done. Okay, so our Way Watcher has no enemies, but I think what we're going to have her do is aid the Iron Breaker. Right? So I get to roll 2 whites. Nobody's engaged with me, so I don't have to worry about that. And I roll 1 success. So we get to put a success token on Inexorable Advance. So we'll kind of hopefully help him fight some of these monsters off. Right? So he may ready an action, but they're all ready, and we may choose 1 enemy engaged with the target, and that enemy gains 1 wound. So we will give that wound to the Goblin Warrior. And that will be it for her first action. Alright, so our Iron Breaker is going to fight, and we're going to apply this success to the Goblin Warrior, so he's essentially dead. We've got his 2 attack die, and we've got 1 black die for each enemy engaged with him. Roll them up, and we get a critical, so we'll roll another one, and we get this. Alright, so the attack goes to the stronger, Odus Grump. He does 2 damage. We have 2 shields to negate, so he takes none. And we've got 2 successes, and that'll put 1 damage through to him. Not a ton, but not a bad round altogether. So he's dead, and that ends all the actions we can take with the Iron Breaker. Alright, for our final action with our Way Watcher, we're going to use the Deadly Shot. Right? So she's got no enemies engaged with her, and she can engage 1 enemy. So I think I'm going to engage the bat. Right? I know it's ranged, and I could have just shot at him, but he can't be hurt, this giant bat. Can't take wounds while he's in the shadows, so I want him out of the shadows. So I'm going to fire on him. So now that I've engaged him, I have to take a black die, so now I have one of each. And I get a nemesis effect and a shield. So I'm going to assign one to the Ironbreaker for the nemesis and one to her, but I'm going to use the shield to negate that one. And I'm going to do 1 damage to the giant bat. And that will end her turn. Everything refreshes because I used Deadly Shot. And it is on to the enemy phase. So we'll resolve the Grump first. So he's going to do 2 damage to our Ironbreaker. And then he's going to pray, but he's got 8 to her 5, so he's going to stay here. And he is exhausted. Giant Bat is going to retreat. And then he's going to inflict. So he does 1 damage to our Weight Watcher. Alright, so our Rat Swarm is now going to advance and then inflict 1 damage to our Ironbreaker. And then he's going to exhaust. And our giant bat was exhausted because he attacked our Weight Watcher. So that's it. The enemy phase is over. Everybody refreshes. These guys stay. He goes back. And now we move on to the location phase. Again, according to this location card, at the end of the phase, we get a little bit more lost, so we're losing some of our exploration tokens. But we do advance into the blue section of the peril meter.
I warned you.
Grump leaps from the darkness, his blade flashing.
Ain't nothing for your ear.
Spawn Odious Grump. If he is already in play, he recovers all health. Regardless, he activates and readies. Alright, so Odious Grump fully heals himself. Activates. So he's going to inflict 2 damage onto our Ironbreaker. And then readies himself again. So he just had a surge of anger in this peril. He doesn't like what's happening here. He doesn't like us continuing on to search for the cause of this plague. But we'll get him. We'll get him, yeah. So that ends our peril. We're going to move our leader token over to the Weight Watcher and start the next round. Okay, for our first action, we are going to do Shadow Watch. So we're going to aid. Nobody engaged with us, so we get to take the action without threat. We've got 2 successes plus 1. So we got 4 successes. That's huge. So I'm going to put 4 tokens on our Ironbreaker. So I'm going to put 2 on his rest action, and I'm going to put 2 on his attack action, his inexorable advance. And the target hero may ready 1 action, so I'm going to ready his inexorable advance, because that was exhausted. And then I may choose 1 enemy engaged with the target hero, and that enemy suffers 1 wound. So I'm going to give another wound to the Rat Swarm. So the Rat Swarm now has 2 wounds. So that was a hugely successful action by the Weight Watcher. Alright, so we've got 2 tokens on our inexorable advance, so we're going to use it. And I'm going to apply 1 token to the Rat Swarm and 1 token to the Odious Grump. So our Rat Swarm is going to be dead. 2 white, 2 black, 1 for each, and roll. Alright, so we've got 2 misses on the enemies and 2 successes for the bad guys. So with 3 hits, minus 1 resilience is 2 damage. So 2 damage to the Odious Grump. These go away. They don't do any damage to me, and the Rat Swarm is now gone. So all that's left on him is an Odious Grump. Very, very nice. For my Weight Watcher's final action, I think I'm going to do Orion's Hunt, which is Explore. I get to roll my 2 dice. Again, no engaged enemies. We get 2 successes. So I get 2 success tokens on the confounding stairs. So we've explored 2 more, so it's up to 4 out of 6. I get to draw and resolve 1 dungeon card. So let's see what we pick here. So it's a trap. You may discard this card after an enemy engages a hero for that enemy to suffer 2. Ooh, I like that. Okay, I thought it was a trap on me, but no, it's a trap on you. That's really good. Okay, I like that. So she will keep that on her. Makes sense for a hunter to have a trap. So she resolved it. And you may exhaust 1 non-nemesis enemy in the shadows. And what do we have in the shadows? 1 non-nemesis enemy in the giant bat. So he's exhausted. He's not going to get an attack on the enemy phase. So let's go back to our Iron Breaker. Iron Breaker is going to do stubborn resolve. He needs a rest, right? So we're going to apply both of these successes here to heal, right? So that's all we get out of this roll. So he's going to get, so I may exhaust 1 non-nemesis enemy engaged with you, but this is a nemesis, so I can't exhaust him. And now I can rest. So I get these 2, plus 1 for the Odious Grump, and I also get 2 shields automatic for resting here, because he's got a shield. So his hit goes through, but my 2 shields will negate that. I have 1 success, plus 2 is 3. So I get to heal 3 health. Not great, but not terrible. Alright, so now he's down to 12 damage. But that's it. So that ends our hero activation, and we're going to go to the enemy phase. Alright, she's up. He's exhausted, so he doesn't get to attack her, so nothing happens. Our Odious Grump is going to attack and do 2 damage to our Iron Breaker. So he's up to 9 damage. To the Way Watcher 6, so he's going to stick around. That's all the enemies, so I will refresh both of them, and we will get on to the exploration phase. And by exploration, I mean location. So remember, we lose 1. So back to 3. We're not really making any progress here, but we are clearing out some of this fodder. So not terrible. Let's go back to Peril. Peril moves up 1. Still in the clear. No events. So let's pass the torch and get on with the next hero turn. Alright, we're passing the torch back to the Iron Breaker. What can we do? I think I'm going to aid. Alright. I think I'm going to aid. So we're going to use Shield Wall. Right? So aid 1. Before this action, you may engage 1 enemy engaged with the target hero, but there's no enemies on that hero. I do get to roll 1 die for the aid and 1 die for the Odious Grump, who's just continuously beating on me. Alright, his 2 damage to my 1 shield, he's going to do 1 damage to me. So not terrible, but I had no successes on this aid. The target hero may ready 1 action, so I'm going to ready to Shadow Watch on the Way Watcher, and that's our aid action. And then I get to ready all of my actions over here. So that was really what I wanted to do. Now he's done. Alright, I'm going to do the Shadow Watch. It's an aid 2. I have no engaged enemies, so I'm going to get to roll 2. I rolled 2, a critical success, so we get to roll another white die. And 2 more. Wow, that's huge. Alright, so I've got 5 to give, and I can only put a max of 2 on any 1 action. So I'm going to put 2 on his attack action, 2 on Stubborn Resolve, and 1 on Shield Wall. And you may choose 1 enemy engaged with the target hero, and that enemy suffers 1 damage. So we're going to give Odious Grump 1 more. He's got 3 damage. So hopefully we can kill him this round. And our Way Watcher's done. Alright, I think it's time to take care of this Grump. So we're going to use inexorable advance, and we're going to assign 2 of our success tokens to him, and I may engage up to 2 enemies, so I'm going to bring the giant bat down as well. Okay. You know what? I'm going to give the bat 1 wound out of these 2, so that's how I'm going to allocate 1 to each. I get to roll 2 dice, and 2 dice for the enemies. So this could go terribly bad, but you never know. Alright, yes, it didn't go great. So they each attack, so that's 3 more damage that I'm going to take. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 damage. So he's down to half health. But that's resolved. He's dead. And I rolled 1, 2, 3, so he gets 2 more damage. Plus 1 is 3 more damage. That's 6. He's dead too. So that actually worked out quite well. So let's clean this up and see what happens here. So when the Odus Grump dies, he flees, and the party tracks him. So he goes back to his lair, and then we add 4 progress tokens to the existing location. So since it's a cap of 6, I'm only going to put 3 there. But that was actually quite a good turn. Quite a good turn. All right, back to the Way Watcher. All right, she's just going to use Deadly Shot to refresh her abilities, and then that'll end her activation. So she's done, and we are going to move on to the location. To location phase. Alright, so we found the end of the confounding stairs due to the Odus Grump's retreat, so we follow him back towards his lair, and we reveal the next location. And it is an underground river. And it says, the current here is strong. It is difficult to find any footing to fight without being swept downstream. At the start of the location phase, add 1 progress to this location. If it is fully explored, the party is forced to travel, and the enemies in the shadows are not discarded. So we are going to have to spawn some enemies now, and then no matter what, we're constantly progressing on this, even if we don't explore. So we're only going to be here a maximum of 4 full rounds. So let's spawn the enemies and see where we are. So we need to spawn 3 up, and he's player 1, so the leader, so he's going to get the first face up, and he gets a giant bat. She gets an orc boy. It's different. Orc boy elite. He gets a giant bat, so he's got 2 giant bats on him, and then we get 2 in the shadows. Oops. 2 in the shadows. And that is the end of that phase. So now we move on to the peril phase. Slide up 1. Still no actions. We will have something to resolve next turn though, which might not be good. What I'm going to do is use this trap. Since this orc boy came and engaged me, I'm going to discard this card, and the enemy is going to suffer 2 wounds. And when enemies suffer wounds outside of combat, their resilience doesn't matter. So he's going to take the full 2 damage for stepping up to my Way Watcher, like that. So I think we're all set and ready to roll for the next location. I am going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. As always, please point out any rules, mistakes I may have made along the way. Happy to put notations in and, prevent myself from doing it the next term, for the next video. And, but that's how we learn, right? So my mistakes will hopefully prevent you from making your own when you play through, and give you a better idea of how the mechanics work. But I think we got it right that time. I feel pretty confident, but you never know. So as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you for part 3.